What we do have to do as well, and you started to go toward this, I think, is in countering the ideology. We've got to do a lot better in that. We have tried a variety of different initiatives over the years. At Central Command, we had a countering malign influence and extremist influence effort. You can have people that can be active in social media, on the internet, trying to provide alternative voices to those of extremism and doing it in the proper dialect and with Islamic training and so forth. And now you have the new State Department initiative, which I applaud, but again, if you look at the resources provided to it, it just can't have that significant an effect, knowing how much this kind of thing costs and knowing what we achieved when we had the really substantial resources during the various surges. But what is hopeful now, I think, is initiatives being pursued by the internet service providers and social media platforms. And that, I think, is actually very, very useful. To see what Jared Cohen is doing with what used to be known as Google Ideas, now it's Jigsaw, so that if you Google search for, say, ISIS or Islamic extremism or you name it, those kinds of search terms, what you get back is not just what you would have normally gotten in the past. You also get back stuff that counters that kind of activity and that kind of influence. It's basically alternative voices. If you ever look, for example, I'm told, they said, there's been a huge effort with this in other areas, including in suicide prevention. One of the efforts is that someone gets back not only, yep, that's the way you can do it, but man, you know, it doesn't always work, and man, it's really unpleasant if it doesn't, and you're worse off than you were before, this kind of stuff. That's what is hugely helpful. The fact that Twitter is taking down accounts now, that there are fairly sizable efforts out there to identify this kind of activity. And that is something I think that's hugely important. We will put we put a stake through the heart of most of al-Baghdadi's lieutenants, including most recently al-Adnani, a very significant operational coordinator and talented in that regard. Will ultimately, I would assume, catch up with al-Baghdadi. You can't run a caliphate and a war and an army without at some point ending up on the X. But we may not put a stake through the heart of the ideologies that are, again, to which some people are prone to be influenced, and that's the effort that requires more and more effort, and I'm sure the next administration will have to pursue a lot of stuff in that regard.